What if the thing that's supposed to build your credit is actually designed to make you broke? Gen Z spends hours hunting the cheapest deal on Amazon. We eat at home to save $15. We'll rotate streaming services month to month just to avoid paying full price. But then we swipe a credit card with a 29% APR without blinking and wonder why we're still in debt at 27. That's not a spending problem. That's a system problem. And the system is working exactly the way it was built to work, just not for you. I'm going to break down the exact numbers your bank doesn't want you to run. By the end, the way you look at your credit card statement will never be the same. Let's start with the belief that almost everyone holds and almost everyone gets wrong. I already know what some of you are thinking. I need a credit card to build credit. That's true, but here's what the banks don't tell you. There are ways to build an 800 credit score without carrying a balance or paying a single dollar in interest. The myth isn't that credit cards are useful. They are. The myth is that you have to carry debt for them to work in your favor. You don't. Not even a little. The credit bureaus don't care whether you paid interest last month. They care whether you paid on time. They care about your credit utilization ratio, meaning how much of your available limit you're actually using. They care about account age. None of those metrics require you to hand a bank free money every month. None of them. So when a bank rep or a financial influencer tells you to keep a small balance on your card for credit building purposes, what they're actually doing is repeating a myth that earns the bank money and costs you real dollars. The balance doesn't help your score. It just helps their quarterly earnings report. Now let's talk numbers. Because the numbers are where this gets genuinely alarming. Gen Z's average credit card balance hit $3,493 in 2025. That number doesn't sound catastrophic on its own, until you realize it surpassed the silent generation's average of $3,445. Let that sit for a second. The generation that survived the Great Depression, rationed food, and rebuilt the American economy from rubble, they carry less credit card debt than people born after the iPhone came out. We are the most connected, most informed generation in history, and we're losing a financial race to people who lived through breadlines. The national average APR for cards currently carrying a balance sits at 21.52% as of early 2026. If you just opened a new card recently, your rate is probably closer to 23.75%. Those aren't interest rates, those are financial handcuffs. Here's what that actually looks like in real dollars. Say you've got an $11,400 balance, which isn't as hard to reach as you think if you're using credit for rent, groceries, gas, and one rough month of emergencies. At 23% APR, paying only the minimums, you will pay $18,500 in interest alone. Not principal, not the money you actually spent, pure interest. And you won't finish paying it off until you're 44 years old. If you're 22 right now, that balance follows you through your entire 20s and most of your 30s. It's there when you're trying to buy a car. It's there when you're applying for a mortgage. It's compounding while you sleep. Even on a smaller balance, say $3,000 at 22% APR, minimum only payments, cost you roughly $1,000 in extra interest and take years to clear. $1,000. Gone. Not spent on anything, not invested, not enjoyed. Just handed over to a bank because you didn't know the math. And here's the stat that should genuinely scare you. Gen Z borrowers between 18 and 29 are sliding into severe delinquency. That's 90-plus days past due, at nearly 10% of balances as of mid-2025. That's roughly 3 times the rate of borrowers aged 60 to 69. We are 3 times more likely to fall into serious debt trouble than people approaching retirement. 3 times. 84% of credit-active Gen Z consumers already hold at least one credit card. Compare that to millennials at the same age. Only 61% had a card. We adopted plastic faster than any generation before us, with less financial education than any generation before us. That combination is not an accident. That's a market opportunity for banks. Americans paid $253 billion in credit card interest and fees in 2025. Not $253 million. Billion. With a B. That money came directly out of the pockets of everyday people and went straight into bank profit margins. Since 2007, banks have more than doubled their profit margins on credit cards by widening the borrowing spread by 109%. They didn't do that by accident. They did it by design, and part of that design targets people who are young, new to credit and not yet running the numbers. And it gets worse when you add buy now, pay later into the picture. BNPL users. The Afterpay crowd, the Klarna crowd, carry an average of $871 more in credit card debt than people who don't use BNPL. Not instead of credit card debt. On top of it, that split into 4 easy payments feeling doesn't reduce spending. It strips away the psychological friction that would normally stop you. You buy more because it doesn't feel like spending. Now here's the part most financial videos skip over. Because it's not about numbers. It's about how your brain has been wired to fail. MIT researchers confirmed what a lot of us already feel but can't explain. Paying with a credit card neurologically releases the brakes on your spending. Not a willpower issue. Not irresponsibility. The physical act of handing over cash activates the same pain centers in your brain that react to physical pain. Swiping a card skips that response entirely. Painless spending is limitless spending, which is exactly what your bank needs it to be. That's step 1 of the system. Remove the pain signal. Step 2 is the minimum payment illusion. Your statement shows you a minimum payment, usually around 1% to 2% of your balance plus interest. Affordable enough that you pay it without stress, but small enough that it barely dents the principal. The bank isn't showing you that number out of generosity. They're showing you that number because it's the amount that keeps you in debt the longest and costs you the most interest over time. Step 3 is the rewards trap. Sneaky because it feels like winning. Airline miles, cashback, hotel points. The rewards are real, but they're paid for by the people who carry balances and pay interest. The bank uses that interest revenue to fund the rewards that pull in more spenders. If you're earning 2% cashback while carrying a balance at 22% APR, you are not coming out ahead. You are bankrolling the rewards earned by the people who play the game correctly. We'll get to how to flip that equation in a minute. Step 4 is the credit limit increase. Your bank randomly offers to raise your limit. Feels like a compliment, feels like trust. What it actually does is lift the ceiling on how much you can owe, and research consistently shows that people spend closer to their limit over time, regardless of where that limit is set. Higher limit, higher average balance, more interest revenue for the bank. Now let's run the numbers. 1 calculation, 2 paths, same person. You're 22 years old. You've got $3,000 in credit card debt at 22% APR. You have $200 a month to put toward it. Path 1. You pay the minimums and invest the rest of that $200. Sounds smart on the surface. Get those returns working for you, right? But your credit card is charging 22%. The S&P 500 average annual return over the last 30 years is around 10% to 11%. You cannot outinvest 22% interest. The math doesn't work. While you're earning 10% on investments, you're losing 22% to debt. That's a guaranteed net negative. Path 2. You attack the debt first. Throw the full $200 at the balance every month. Clear that $3,000 in about 17 months, paying around $500 in total interest instead of over $1,000. Then, starting at age 23 and a half, redirect that same $200 per month into an index fund. By age 40, at a conservative 10% average annual return, that $200 per month grows to just over $120,000. By age 55, it's pushing $400,000. The person who cleared the debt first and started investing 17 months later ends up dramatically wealthier than the person who tried to do both at once while carrying 22% interest. Not because they earned more, because they stopped bleeding money first. Nobody shows you that calculation when they're approving your card application. So what do you actually do? 3 rules. Not 10, not 50. 3. Pay the full balance every month, no exceptions. Not most of the balance. Not everything except the vacation charge you're going to deal with next month. The full balance. Every single month. The second you carry a balance, you lose. You're no longer using the bank's money interest-free. You're renting it at 22% a year. If you genuinely cannot pay the full balance, you spent more than you had. That's a budget problem to fix before the card problem. Never use more than 30% of your available credit limit. That's the utilization threshold that starts protecting your credit score. If your limit is $5,000, keep your balance under $1,500 at any given time, ideally under 10%. Credit scoring models read high utilization as a sign of financial stress, even if you're planning to pay it off in full. Keep it low, keep your score high, and keep your options open. Only open cards with rewards that serve you, not the bank. If you travel twice a year, a $550 annual fee travel card is probably not for you. If you drive to work and buy groceries, a flat 2% cashback card on every purchase is clean, simple, and puts money back in your pocket. The best credit card strategy for most people in their 20s is 1 or 2 cards with no annual fee, a strong cashback rate, and full balance payoff every month. That's it. No rotating categories to track, no airline miles expiring. Just money back, no debt, and a credit score climbing on its own. Here's the reality nobody in this space says out loud. Most of the Gen Z financial crisis isn't about income. 69% of Gen Z lived paycheck to paycheck in January 2025. That's up from 57% just 2 years earlier. And Gen Z's financial literacy rate sits at 38%, the lowest of any living generation. We have the most access to financial information in human history, and the worst outcomes. Something is broken in how we're learning this stuff. Or more accurately, in how we're not learning it. Only 38% of us can pass a basic financial literacy test. Yet 84% of us already hold a credit card. We were handed the tool before we were taught how to use it. And the industry that profits most from our ignorance had every incentive to keep it that way. The rules are simple, the discipline is hard. But hard and complicated are not the same thing. Pay it off every month. Stay under 30% utilization. Only carry cards that earn for you, not against you. That's the whole system. Right there. Here's what I want you to think about after this video. If you could go back to the day you got your first credit card and run these numbers on a piece of paper before you ever swiped it, would anything be different? Drop your answer in the comments, and be honest. How old were you when you first carried a balance? What did it cost you? If this hit differently than you expected, hit that like button. It genuinely helps more people find this content before they make the mistakes that take years to undo. Share it with someone in your life who just got their first card or is in the middle of figuring this out. And subscribe, because next week we're breaking down exactly how to build an 800 credit score from scratch, starting with 0 credit history and 0 debt. And the timeline is faster than you think.